Welcome to Royal Daily Report, your trusted source for royal family news and investigations. Tonight in May 2026, we bring you the story that the entire entertainment world, the entire fashion world, and the entire media industry is watching very closely and very carefully. Because what is happening to the Sussex brand right now is not a slow decline. It is not a gradual cooling of public interest. What we are watching in real time is a complete and total collapse. And the signs are everywhere. They are impossible to ignore. And they are happening faster than even the harshest critics of Harry and Meghan ever predicted. Stay with us, because this story is bigger than one couple and bigger than one failed Netflix show. This is the story of how the most ambitious and most expensive reinvention in modern royal history fell apart. How it fell apart completely. And what that means for the two people who bet everything on it working. Subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now and hit that notification bell. You absolutely cannot afford to miss a single update on this developing story. Let us start at the very beginning. Because to understand how far the Sussex brand has fallen in May 2026, you have to understand how high it once was. And how genuinely, breathtakingly high that was. When Harry and Meghan announced in January 2020 that they were stepping back from their roles as senior working royals, they did not do it quietly or reluctantly. They did it with a plan. A bold, ambitious, and carefully constructed plan that had clearly been in development for some time before the announcement was ever made public. They were going to build something entirely new. Something that had never been done before by anyone with their specific combination of royal heritage, global name recognition, and Hollywood connections. They were going to become the world's most powerful and most influential celebrity couple. Independent, free, commercially unstoppable. They were going to use the platform their royal background gave them to create a media empire that would make them financially secure for generations. They would tell their own story on their own terms. They would partner with the biggest names in entertainment and business. They would build brands, create content, and shape conversations in ways that the stuffy and rigid British royal institution had never allowed them to do. And for a brief and genuinely dazzling moment, it looked like it might actually work. The Netflix deal landed with enormous impact, reported to be worth in the region of $100 million over multiple years. The Spotify podcast deal followed. The Oprah interview in March 2021 drew over 17 million American viewers on the night. It aired in hundreds of millions more globally in the days that followed. Harry's memoir Spare became one of the fastest-selling non-fiction books in the history of British publishing. Their faces were on every screen. Their story was in every conversation. Their brand was at the absolute peak of its commercial power. That was then. This is May 2026. And the distance between those two moments is not just surprising. It is shocking to everyone who has been watching. Do not forget to subscribe to Royal Daily Report for more exclusive royal updates. Let us begin with Netflix. Because Netflix was always the centerpiece of everything. The foundation on which the entire Sussex commercial strategy was built. Without Netflix performing at the level both sides had hoped, nothing else in the Sussex business plan holds together in the way it was designed to. The early content performed. The Harry and Meghan documentary series released in December 2022 generated significant viewing numbers and enormous global conversation. But conversation and sustainable long-term commercial value are two very different things. And as 2023 moved into 2024 and then into 2025, a deeply uncomfortable truth began emerging inside Netflix boardrooms and production meetings. The Sussexes were, at their core, a one-story brand. The world was genuinely and powerfully interested in their royal drama. The conflict with the palace. Their version of events. The insider perspective on an institution that billions of people around the world find endlessly fascinating. But that same world was significantly and visibly less interested in everything else. Meghan's cooking show, Harry's polo documentary, the wellness content, the lifestyle content, the carefully curated glimpses into their beautiful but increasingly disconnected Montecito life. Industry insiders began using a phrase that must have been deeply painful for the couple to hear repeated in meeting after meeting. They called the Sussex content vanity projects. Beautifully produced, carefully managed down to the smallest detail, but ultimately and fatally lacking the one thing that makes any content truly and lastingly compelling. Genuine stakes, real and unpredictable tension, Authentic human surprise that no production team can manufacture. Because here is the truth that no production budget in the world can paper over. Once you have told your story, once you have said publicly and on the record everything you wanted to say about the royal family, about your reasons for leaving, about the pain you experienced and the freedom you were seeking, what is the next chapter? What keeps the audience coming back when they already know the ending? What justifies the investment when the product is increasingly familiar and increasingly predictable? In May 2026, that question still does not have a satisfying answer. And Netflix executives who are ultimately and entirely responsible to their shareholders and their subscriber numbers are asking it louder and more insistently than ever before. Hit that like button and subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now. This story is only getting more serious. Now let us talk about the lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, because this was supposed to be Meghan's personal and professional triumph. Her proof to the world that she could stand completely and powerfully on her own, that she was not simply a former royal or a famous man's wife, that she was a brand in her own right, sophisticated, aspirational, commercially powerful in a category that rewards exactly those qualities. The launch generated enormous attention. The aesthetics were genuinely beautiful and carefully considered. The branding was polished to a level that impressed even people who were skeptical of the project. The early press coverage was largely warm and interested. Celebrity friends received early product samples. The internet talked about it for days. But attention and actual sustained commercial success are two completely different things. And as 2025 moved into 2026, the gap between the two became impossible for anyone watching closely to ignore. The major fashion house partnerships that were expected to materialize did not come together in the way the brand needed them to. Retail partnerships moved slowly. The product range, always described as being carefully developed and imminent, remained frustratingly limited and inconsistent. The momentum that a successful luxury lifestyle launch absolutely requires simply did not build in the way the team had planned and hoped. Brand strategists speaking to outlets covering the story in early 2026 used words that painted a very clear and very uncomfortable picture. Words like stalled, words like overextended, words like identity crisis. Because the fundamental problem with American Riviera Orchard is the same fundamental problem running through every part of the Sussex brand right now in May 2026. It depends entirely on the royal connection for its appeal, its relevance, its reason for existing in a market full of luxury lifestyle competitors. Remove the Duchess title, remove the royal history, remove the palace drama and the Windsor Association. And what exactly is being sold? Jam and flowers from a very expensive house in a very expensive neighborhood in California. That is not enough to build a lasting and serious luxury brand. And the market, which is brutally and reliably honest in ways that no PR team can manage or spin, is making that abundantly clear. Make sure you are subscribed to Royal Daily Report and have liked this video. We are bringing you the complete and unfiltered picture. But the single most damaging event for the Sussex brand in all of 2026, the one moment that brand experts and royal watchers are pointing to as potentially the most significant turning point in the entire Sussex story, happened not in a boardroom or a streaming platform meeting. It happened at Althorpe House, in 4 words spoken by one man, Charles Spencer, the 9th Earl Spencer, Princess Diana's own brother. Netflix had been developing what was supposed to be the Sussex brand's great comeback. A major multi-episode documentary series built around the 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's death in 2027. This was the project Harry and Meghan were counting on most heavily. Their one guaranteed global hit. Their way of reminding every person on Earth of the royal connection that makes everything else they do commercially relevant and emotionally meaningful. The plan was ambitious and carefully constructed. The series was not designed as a simple historical documentary. It was built as what producers called a spiritual successor narrative, a project that would draw a direct and emotionally powerful line between the challenges Diana faced from the British establishment in the 1990s and the challenges Meghan says she has faced from that same institution. It would position Meghan as the modern version of Diana, the new outsider, the new woman being misunderstood and mistreated by a cold and uncaring system. Charles Spencer reviewed the proposal. He saw Meghan's central role in the narrative. He understood what the project was really designed to do. And he responded in 4 words that are still echoing through every Hollywood boardroom and every London media office in May 2026. Is this a joke? The gates of Althorpe slammed shut, and with them, the most important content project in the Sussex pipeline ended before a single camera rolled. The consequences of that rejection are still unfolding. Without the Diana Anniversary Project, Netflix has no guaranteed major Sussex content planned for 2027. Without guaranteed major content, the business case for continuing the Sussex deal at its current level becomes genuinely very difficult to make. And without the Netflix deal at full strength, the financial foundation of the entire Sussex operation becomes precarious in ways that are difficult to overstate. Do not miss a single update. Subscribe to Royal Daily Report and hit that bell icon right now. And then there is the A-list exodus. Because this is perhaps the most visible and most personally painful part of the Sussex brand collapse in May 2026. Look at the guest list from the 2018 royal wedding, and it reads like the most exclusive party in the world. George and Amal Clooney, David and Victoria Beckham, Serena Williams, Oprah Winfrey. Some of the most famous and most influential people on the entire planet were in that chapel. It was a genuine and dazzling demonstration of the social capital the Sussex brand could command at its peak. Look at the social picture in May 2026, and you see something completely different. The Beckhams reportedly cut ties after being accused of leaking stories to the press. An accusation that David Beckham, a man who considers personal loyalty to be one of his most fundamental values, found deeply and lastingly insulting. The Clooneys, described publicly by Meghan as close friends, were recently photographed at a charity event for King Charles, choosing the institution over the brand without any apparent hesitation or awkwardness. Even Oprah Winfrey has been remarkably and conspicuously quiet. Multiple insiders suggesting she feels that the famous and enormously watched sit-down interview she hosted did not give her the honest and complete picture she believed she was getting when she agreed to do it. The reason for this A-list retreat is not complicated when you understand how the world of ultra-high-net-worth celebrity actually operates. The Sussex brand in 2018 offered something specific, rare, and genuinely valuable: a direct and authentic connection to the British monarchy. That was the product. That was the reason the famous showed up and the deals followed. In 2026, the product has changed completely. What the Sussex brand offers now is grievance, sustained and public conflict with the institution. And in the world of the seriously wealthy and the genuinely influential, grievance is not a valuable asset to be associated with. It is a liability, a reputational risk, a reason to quietly and carefully keep your distance. The A-list has not simply moved on to other things. They have made deliberate and calculated decisions to protect their own brands and their own reputations by maintaining a safe and growing distance from the Sussex story. They can see the direction of travel clearly. They can see King Charles's popularity surging during his Australian tour. They understand that being loudly and publicly associated with a sustained campaign against the King of England serves nobody's long-term interests. When your anniversary Instagram post is full of solo shots and your famous friends are attending charity events for the king you criticized, it is not because everyone is simply busy. It is because the people who were once photographed beside you no longer want that association on their public record. Now let us talk about something that in May 2026 represents perhaps the coldest and most deliberate message the royal family has sent to the Sussexes since they left. Peter Phillips, Princess and son and King Charles's nephew, is getting married. It is a significant family occasion, the kind of gathering where the inner circle of the monarchy comes together to demonstrate unity, strength, and continuity moving forward. King Charles will be there. Queen Camilla will be there. William and Catherine are attending. Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie are on the guest list and are reportedly being actively promoted within the working royal structure, taking on more visible engagements and standing publicly and visibly by the king's side. No invitation was sent to Montecito, not one. And the palace has been quietly making clear to journalists that this gathering is specifically and deliberately designed to show the world that the royal family is moving forward, that it is complete, that it is functioning with strength and purpose, and that it is doing all of this entirely and comfortably without the drama and the conflict of the Sussex brand anywhere near it. This is not simply a family snub. This is a strategic and unmistakable statement. In 2018, Harry and Meghan were the center of the royal story. In May 2026, they are not in the frame at all. Here is the truth that sits at the center of everything happening to the Sussex brand in May 2026. A truth that no amount of carefully managed Instagram content or polished press releases can change or hide. You cannot build a lasting identity and a lasting commercial brand entirely on what you left behind. At some point, you have to build something genuinely and independently new, something that stands completely on its own feet, something that does not need the palace or the titles or the royal drama or the memory of Princess Diana or the ongoing conflict with the institution to justify its existence and its commercial relevance. And in May 2026, after 6 years of trying, that something has not arrived. The fairy tale that Harry and Meghan promised the world, and perhaps genuinely promised themselves, has not materialized in the way either of them planned. The empire they were going to build has not been built. The freedom they were going to find has not been found in the way they imagined. The story they were going to tell has run out of new chapters that the world wants to pay to read or watch. Without the Diana narrative as the driving engine, without the A-list network as the social proof, without the Netflix blockbuster as the commercial anchor, and without the royal conflict as the ongoing source of drama and relevance, what is the Sussex brand in May 2026? That is the question. And it is the most important and most uncomfortable question Harry and Meghan have ever had to face. Because unlike the questions they have faced before, this one cannot be answered with an interview or a documentary or a carefully worded statement released through their communications team. It can only be answered by building something real, something new, something that exists entirely on its own merits and stands entirely on its own 2 feet. And so far, in May 2026, that something is nowhere to be seen. Royal Daily Report will be here watching, reporting, and bringing you every development as this story continues to unfold. That is all for today's investigation. If you found this report valuable, please subscribe to Royal Daily Report right now for daily royal news and exclusive updates. Like this video and share it with someone who wants the real story behind the royal headlines. Turn on your notifications so you are always first to know. Until next time, this is Royal Daily Report, keeping you fully and honestly informed on everything royal.